Growing Together, multi-sector investments in Malawi's youth. We are the young people of Malawi, and we imagine a future in which all young people in our country grow up with the resources we need to be healthy, happy, and productive adults. Malawi has planted the seeds that will make this vision a reality, with policies such as the National Population Policy, Vision 2020, and Agenda 2063, and commitments like the Sustainable Development Goals. But many of us today aren't able to access the opportunities these policies promise. We are Malawi's future. As youth, we know what we need to do to achieve our goals and drive Malawi's growth. But we cannot do it ourselves. We need you, our national and district decision makers, and our traditional and religious leaders to act now. Sustained investments in youth can open a window of opportunity for accelerated economic growth and development in Malawi. But we must start today. There are now 17.5 million people in Malawi, and if our population continues to grow at its current rate, we will have more than double the number of people by 2050. That's over 42 million people. Our population is made up of children and young people, working-age adults, and the elderly. Working people's economic activity provides the resources for government to invest in the health and education services that we all depend on. By looking at how many people are in each of these age groups, we can better understand patterns of economic productivity and consumption. This graph shows us the proportion of the population in 5-year segments. Today, Malawi has the largest and most youthful population in our history. Almost 6 million of us are between the ages of 10 and 24, and 8.4 million of us are ages 10 to 34. In order to thrive, we need strategic investments in young people's health, education, economic opportunities, and civic participation. If young couples continue to have many children, as our parents did, our youthful population will remain large, and our government will continue to struggle to meet the needs we see today for adequate schools, teachers, health workers and facilities, and jobs. But if we make investments now to give young people more opportunities and enable us to meet our desired family size, Malawi will add fewer young people to its future population, reducing pressure on the working age population to provide more and more resources. By acting now, we can generate a burst of economic growth that will fuel our country's development. Today, however, young people face barriers that will keep Malawi from reaching this goal. As our population grows, so will the gaps in our health, education, employment, and participation in governance. Effective and accessible health services play an important role in managing our country's population growth and ensuring a productive workforce.
We don't have proper places where the youths can go and access the services, especially in sexual reproductive health. And sometimes when they go there, the providers that they come across, they find them a bit, what can I say? They find them a bit old, and then they're not free to express their problems. So it's a challenge.
Malawi's health sector is facing many challenges. The Second Health Sector Strategic Plan 2017 to 2022 reported a 45% vacancy rate in health posts, and that 1 out of 4 people, which is 24%, live more than 8 kilometers from a health center or hospital. These gaps create challenges for young people to access the healthcare they need, especially when it comes to family planning. Almost 1 in 3 girls between ages 15 and 19 have already begun childbearing. We already rely heavily on donors to finance our health supply chain, information systems, and infrastructure. These early and unintended pregnancies add to Malawi's growing and youthful population, placing an even bigger demand on our health, education, employment, and other sectors. Many women are having more children than they planned. In rural areas, women have, on average, 1 more child than they desire. These unplanned pregnancies also put young women's health and lives at risk. Maternal mortality accounts for 15% of deaths among young women ages 15 to 19 and 17% of deaths among young women ages 20 to 24. A 2014 analysis found that if all women who wished to delay or space their pregnancies were using modern contraception, Malawi could reduce maternal mortality by 40%. Increasing access to youth-friendly health services and contraception can play a role in reducing maternal deaths by allowing young women to delay or space births, achieve desired family sizes, and improve their own and their children's health. Despite all the benefits of family planning, 1 in 5 married women and 2 in 5 sexually active unmarried women who want to avoid getting pregnant for the next 2 years or longer are not using a form of modern contraception. These gaps must be closed. Improving our health is an important step in helping us become healthy, happy, and productive adults, but our future also depends on the investments we make in education.
In most schools in Malawi, there are few learning materials, so they are not enough to accommodate all the students in schools. Or maybe their learning materials, they can share 10 pupils, so they are not enough. So the quality of the education is very low. Yeah, and even the curriculum. Recently, the curriculum has just been changed, but yet the books are not there in schools. So it is difficult for children to catch up with the curriculum. So it is very difficult because there are not enough in the schools.
Young people want a quality education that prepares us to enter the working world and have skilled jobs that pay good wages. But we are struggling to succeed because of several gaps. Thanks to policies that grant free primary school, more of us have access to education. But we need more qualified teachers to guide our future leaders. In 2015, we had 1 qualified teacher for every 75 primary school students and 1 qualified teacher for every 64 secondary students. The shortage of teachers illustrates a significant gap in the education sector. If women continue to have an average of 4 to 5 children, the number of children entering primary school will grow, requiring the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology to increase annual spending for primary school students to $351 million, which is 255 trillion Malawi kwacha between 2015 and 2050. But if we prevent early and unintended pregnancies and women have an average of 2 to 3 children, we can save $1.7 billion, which is 1.2 trillion Malawi kwacha, and reallocate those savings for training teachers, building new schools, and improving existing infrastructure. In addition, many schools lack adequate numbers of classrooms and do not provide hygienic facilities for girls, prompting them to drop out of school. Pregnancy also discourages girls from returning to school, although we should be encouraging girls to return and complete their secondary education. Beyond primary education, we need to keep students, especially girls, in school to complete secondary education and gain the skills to build a competitive workforce. Evidence suggests that when young people, especially girls, remain in school longer, they wait to have children. In Malawi, only 35% of the students in primary school complete the 8-year school cycle, and only 18% enroll in secondary school. In addition, fewer than 20% of girls who complete primary school continue their secondary education, and even fewer complete secondary school. In fact, a Malawian girl is 50 times more likely to be married before age 18 than she is to enroll in university. Our government has already enacted a landmark constitutional amendment and strategy to outlaw child marriage. Enforcing this law at all policy levels is a critical piece of investing in education. To maximize the education sector's contributions to Malawi's development, we also need updated curricula to focus on the skills that today's generation needs: adolescent sexuality education, access to information and communication technology, ICT, and financial literacy. The third Malawi Growth and Development Strategy calls for the educational curriculum to provide age-appropriate and culturally sensitive education so that young people understand their bodies and healthy, responsible behaviors. Doing so can play a role in delaying sexual activity, allowing girls to continue their education uninterrupted. Including access to ICT and financial literacy in our education will prepare us for entrepreneurial success. ICT will enable us to keep pace with the rest of the world and spur innovation in Malawi. And financial literacy will help us understand how to access and use financial credit schemes to become successful entrepreneurs. Today's youth need qualified teachers and classrooms, hygienic facilities for girls, and a skills-based curriculum. These investments will help young Malawians keep up with the advances in technology and position the workforce to encourage economic growth.
You see a guy with a degree, but then they're staying home without getting any job. It's like there's no jobs for youth out there.
The government has apprenticeship and employment strategies in place to create a limited number of government jobs. But for more youth to participate in the labor market, we need a booming private sector and improved youth employment schemes that will steer innovation and create job opportunities. Today, 85% of employed Malawians are working in the agricultural sector. In fact, agriculture is the overwhelming entry point into employment for rural and urban youth. Despite the progressive national employment and labor policy, which recognizes the value of employment to upward economic mobility, 1 in 5 Malawians are unemployed. Unemployment is even higher among young people. Nearly 1 in 3, which is 28% youth between the ages of 15 and 34, are unemployed. Every year, an estimated 130,000 youth enter the job market, but the formal sector presently creates 30,000 jobs, a fraction of the necessary opportunities. Young people, especially women, are then forced to work in the informal economy, where they are vulnerable to a lack of worker rights and social protections, unstable or unsafe work opportunities, and uncertain income. Agriculture cannot sustain our youthful population's demand for jobs. So we need to start taking steps today to meet this demand. We need to diversify our economic sector and improve access to markets through an encouraging trade and legal environment. By creating more access to financing and stronger ICT and energy infrastructure, Malawi can diversify our economic sectors, help businesses thrive, and create more job opportunities. With greater financial literacy, beginning as part of our education, youth can better propel Malawi's economic growth through entrepreneurship. And by meeting family planning needs to allow for the smaller families that young Malawians desire, we can lessen growth in the youngest ages of our population. As more people are meaningfully employed, the working age population will generate economic growth for the country, households and communities will be more stable, and the government can invest more in the needs of the social sector and other sectors that will stimulate economic growth. To move towards this vision, youth participation is necessary across all sectors. The National Youth Policy calls for decision-making bodies to include 30% representation by youth and space for young people in governance structures. We need to ensure that youth participate fully as intended.
As much as they have the young person's face on the platform, they feel like that's it, that's enough. They can have a young person on the space, but not really give him time to voice out his thoughts or his concerns.
Many of us are or soon will be old enough to vote, pay taxes, and gain our full legal rights. Most young people are acting on our potential to drive Malawi's political future. Youth are made up more than half, which is 54% of registered voters in the 2019 tripartite elections. 77% of us were active in our communities in 2015. And 71% of youth voted in the 2014 elections. This community and civic engagement increases as more of us complete primary school, illustrating the importance of education in keeping young people informed and involved. Without opportunities to contribute to important decisions, we will become frustrated or apathetic, placing Malawi's growth, peace, and stability at risk. Many governance platforms do not currently allow for meaningful youth consultation in policy development and implementation. Malawi must strengthen youth networks within each sector so that we can understand our roles and responsibilities in government decision-making and identify opportunities for civic action at national and district levels. By taking these steps, we will grow our next generation of leaders. Too often, however, our voices aren't heard in decision-making processes. One study by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, found that only half of us trust our national institutions and processes. Yet most of us, which is 75%, do trust our traditional and religious leaders. These leaders are entry points to reach Malawi's youth with important messages and services. They can influence young people's access to information and our potential to act on our civic duties. We can also start implementing the strong policies we have, like the National Youth Policy, the Youth-Friendly Health Services Strategy, and the National Strategy of Adolescent Girls and Young Women, which promote equity and youth participation. The challenges are present, but so are the solutions. Let's remember that today's youth are already making significant decisions that will shape our lives and our country. Critical to our success will be our empowerment, driven by our health, education, economic opportunities, and our role in decision-making. Malawi has taken the first bold steps in our policy documents and directives to identify strategies that will inspire and support young people. Implementing those policies will provide a window of opportunity for accelerated economic growth. The time to act is now. We cannot afford to miss this opportunity to ensure Malawi's growth and development. Key decision makers within national ministries and district assemblies should acknowledge Malawi's youthful population and recognize that investments in us and future youth are central to the country's growth and development. Our traditional and religious leaders and institutions have the power to positively influence norms around gender, the value of young people, and how we are perceived. Together, these leaders can prioritize 4 key sectors, each with specific investments. First, scale up youth-friendly health services and extend services to youth clubs and centers with providers and educators who are trained to provide accurate information to young people so that they can make informed decisions. Second, improve our education infrastructure by building classrooms with science and computer labs, girls' hostels, and hygienic facilities. Equip this infrastructure with the necessary materials and hire qualified teachers to deliver innovative curricula and use updated resources that will prepare us as tomorrow's innovators and leaders. Third, improve employment opportunities by supporting the private sector with an encouraging macroeconomic and legal environment which will amplify private sector initiatives for youth development. Encourage young innovators and entrepreneurs with access to financing and ICT and promote our financial literacy. Fourth, implement the National Youth Policy by including a youth seat with voting powers in all local government coordination structures and national decision-making bodies. Support existing youth networks, clubs, and organizations with knowledge of governance, advocacy, and civic responsibility to amplify youth participation so that policies better respond to our needs, experiences, and values. Development is multi-sectoral, and no single ministry would drive our growth. Let's bring our collective strengths together to listen to youth, invest in youth, and actively promote development. Investing in Malawi's youth is like nurturing a plant to grow. Just as a single root helps nourish the whole plant, investments in each sector will impact and encourage development across all sectors of our country. Working with one purpose and one goal, all sectors can invest in our young people, accelerate development, and grow a stronger Malawi for generations to come.